Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about Halloween Kills. Once again, I apologize that this review is kind of late. I am going to try to get better with doing more timely reviews for future movies. Just my work schedule's just been kind of crazy and all over the place lately, so that's kind of why all these reviews seem as late as they are. But this is my review for Halloween Kills. I really enjoyed that 2018 reboot slash revival that came out, 3 years ago. David Gordon Green, I thought, added something new to the franchise. I've always been a big Halloween fan as well. For me in particular, I thought the very first Halloween from 1978 and Halloween H2O 20 years later were kind of always my two go-to Halloween movies. Those are always kind of the two that I always prefer as a Halloween fan, and I think both films brought out like the best of Jamie Lee Curtis and things like that. So I have a lot of reasons for why those two in particular films are my favorite. But I really enjoyed that 2018 film as well. So I was really curious to see how they were going to follow that up. And so in this film, it does kind of continue right where that last one left off. Where if you haven't seen the 2018 film, I highly recommend seeing that before watching this review. Even though my Halloween Kills segment of this part of the video is going to try to stay as spoiler free as I can, but it is a hard film to discuss without talking about that 2018 film. So I do highly recommend going and watching that before watching this review. So in Halloween Kills, we do find Michael in that burning house from the end of the 2018 film. Laurie, her daughter, and her granddaughter all think that this is the end of Michael Myers once and for all. They're all going to a hospital to get the treatment that they need since Michael hurt them very badly in the house. But through a series of events, through the firefighters responding, through a first responder, um, they try to put the fire out. They think that one of their own firefighters is stuck in the house and needs help getting out of the basement. That is not the case. It ends up being Michael Myers, who escapes the home. And so now Michael is now out and about in Haddonfield killing again, while Laurie is getting some surgery done. Her daughter and granddaughter are obviously getting the care that they need at the hospital as well. And so they eventually do get the news that Michael is loose. But while the news comes out, an adult Tommy Doyle from 1978 and an adult Lindsey Wallace also from 1978, these are the two kids that Laurie Strode babysat in that very first Halloween movie. They're now full-grown adults 40 years later. And so when they hear the news that Michael has escaped and still not taken care of and not killed off, they take it amongst themselves to form a town mob to kind of kill off Michael Myers once and for all. And so basically they try to think like Michael Myers. They try to be aware of all the houses, be aware of all the back alleys, be aware of all the potential places that Michael could be at that they could hunt him down in. So throughout the course of this movie, this town mob is trying to basically violently take care of the situation once and for all while Laurie is recovering, while her daughter and granddaughter are also recovering, but also kind of taking care of the situation as well. And so the film also explores kind of the downsides of town mobs, how misleading a group of people could harm somebody without, it can harm somebody and just cause violence and fear amongst people and not really take care of the problem. And how, even though the police might not always respond the way that you want sometimes, sometimes they're kind of the best resource for taking care of a situation, like getting a person behind our bars again and stuff like that. And so the film explores kind of the downsides of town mobs, how there could be major consequences if not handled correctly and things like that. So overall, I enjoyed Halloween Kills, you guys. I thought it was a good movie. I do think, unfortunately, this is a step down from that 2018 film because I really, really liked that 2018 film a lot. I really thought it was the proper sequel that we needed to that first Halloween film. It did erase the timeline from the events of the first film on out, so it just kept the first film in the timeline, the 2018 film, and now this Halloween Kills movie. It does not acknowledge like Halloween 2 or H2O or anything like that. But overall, like I said, I enjoyed this film. There's things about it that I liked. There is things about it too that I didn't like, and why, like I said, why I feel like it is a drop from quality compared to that 2018 movie. But let's go over some positives and negatives as to why this is the case. Why I still think this is a good film. If you're a Halloween fan, I think you'll still be happy with this. But at the same time, why there's some downsides to this, and why it is a drop from quality from that 2018 film. But overall, for my positives, I thought the use and presence of Michael Myers was very strong here. You definitely get another great Michael Myers story here. He Gets a lot to do. He even gets to homage one of the kills that he had in the 1978 film, where he's on top of somebody's car and breaking the windows with his hand and things like that. Definitely a nice homage to that scene in that movie. But I like the use of Michael Myers. They definitely give him more supernatural elements this time around and ground him in reality a little bit like what they did in 2018, but we'll get to that in my negatives. But for the most part, the use and the presence of Michael Myers I thought was very effective in this movie. I also thought the use of music was very effective here. John Carpenter and his son Cody Carpenter did return for the score of this movie, and I actually think the score they made here is even better than what they did in the 2018 film, because I really liked what they did in that movie as well as far as the score went. But this time around, they did something more along the line of the 1978 film. There's even some scenes here that I'm going to talk about here in a little bit that are supposed to be sequences that occur in 1978 that are flashbacks, and they just really nailed what the score and the music was of that original movie. And it just felt more along the line of something you would hear in one of those older Halloween movies. And overall, this is kind of a mixed opinion, but for me personally, I thought Laurie Strode's role in the movie made a lot of sense. She is of an older age. The film does acknowledge that she does need more time to recover from things. She gets to do some things in this movie. I would say more so towards the end, we get to kind of see the Laurie Strode that we all know and love, specifically from the 78 film and the 2018 film and what she was doing in those. So I thought her overall role made sense. Recovering in the hospital, still having a voice, still having a strategy as to how to take care of Michael Myers now that the burning house thing didn't work out. So her role made sense to me in this movie, so I wasn't too upset as far as how Laurie Strode was handled in the film. I also liked how Anthony Michael Hall handled the adult Tommy Doyle in this movie. I know that they didn't get the original actor from 1978. I guess he doesn't act anymore and didn't want to be in the movie and things like that. But I liked kind of how brooding this adult Tommy Doyle was, that he was trying to take care of things, feel like he was kind of spent most of his life figuring out if Michael were to ever come back, how he would handle the situation and things like that. So kind of like what Laurie Strode handled the situation in 2018, kind of like preparing all these years if Michael were to ever come back. So I liked how we got a more brooding Tommy Doyle this time around, and it made sense for how he was the way he was all these years later after that 1978 movie. I also enjoyed the film's view on vengeance and evil. I thought the film's sense of people getting revenge, seeking revenge. My throat's starting to get off of me. Better get a drink of water after this. The film's view on revenge and how people, like what causes people to have revenge and seek it out and wants to, go after Michael and take care of the problem once and for all. The film's view on evil I thought was very effective, how Michael's kind of this unstoppable force of nature and how evil feels like something that doesn't really die out, and even when all the right people are involved, it still feels like it's this thing that's always going to be around. So basically how the film handles vengeance and evil I thought was very well depicted in the movie. There's also some, like I said, some very effective 1978 sequences in this movie. There's scenes that are trying to go back into that original movie and kind of show us things that we didn't know about. And because this is a new timeline, there's certain ways that Michael was brought back into the mental institution that we didn't know about from before, because obviously he got back there from the events of Halloween 2 and things like that. So now with that off the timeline, they have to kind of show what was happening and how Officer Hawkins was involved and things like that. So the 1978 sequences I thought were very effective here, and I also thought they did a good job making sure that they felt like they belonged in 1978 and they were shot that way, and the color palette felt the same and things like that. So I really enjoyed how they handled that. There's a character that they show up and they use that I was not expecting to show up in this, and I thought it was kind of cool seeing this character again and how they were able to do it now that this actor is gone and things like that. So the 1978 sequences I thought were very well handled in this movie. And for the most part, I thought this film effectively set up Halloween Ends for next year, because I think in either October of 2022 or October of 2023 is when the next one's going to come out. And they definitely set just enough on the table to set up for that last movie that will apparently end the Laurie Strode saga, but they could continue with more Michael Myers stories if they want. I thought this film did a good job kind of setting up what Halloween Ends could potentially be about. Hopefully it'll be good. Hopefully it will not be a waste of time or be a Matrix Revolution situation or anything like that. But for the most part, I thought they did set up for Halloween Ends in a pretty interesting way. But for my negatives of Halloween Kills, I thought the whole mob mentality thing when they find out Michaels is alive and Tommy Doyle and Lindsey Wallace and all of them want to form this mob, it just felt very counterintuitive. There's just a lot of stupid characters doing stupid things at that point in the movie. It's just one of those things where if they really want to kill off Michael, it didn't feel like the right way to do it. I don't know if that's the film's the way of depicting that or not, but I thought the whole mob mentality thing could have been better handled or better written, or just to do a better direction than what they ended up doing in this film. There's also just a lot of dumb character choices, going back to the mob mentality thing, just characters doing stupid things. There's a lot of scenes in this movie, too, where characters are in dark rooms and they just refuse to use a light switch. A lot of characters claim that they know how to use a gun, and the bullets fired in different directions and things that clearly aren't the person they're trying to fire at. There's just a lot of dumb choices here. The whole mob mentality thing I thought was just really poorly handled. It just felt extremely counterintuitive for what they were trying to do, and maybe that was just, like I said, the film's point or something, but there was just a lot of dumb character choices throughout this movie that I didn't 100% get on board with. Another negative with the movie is I thought some of the legacy characters, which were the characters that came back from the 1978 film that were still alive over the course of Halloween Kills, I thought some of them were just kind of poorly utilized into the story. Like Nurse Marion, for example, really doesn't get a lot to do. Her closure to the story is not very good. Lindsey Wallace doesn't get a lot to do. Tommy Doyle gets quite a bit to do in the movie. He's probably one of the few legacy characters that does get a lot of justice in this movie. But former Sheriff Brackett, I thought what they did with him was a little boring here too. So I thought the use of the legacy characters could have been better utilized. I really didn't enjoy the closures to a lot of these characters. I also thought the film kind of relied on that old 1978 film a little too much. And I also thought that it relied on the flashbacks a little bit too much as well. I just felt like this film could have done a better job being its own movie, being concerned with its own story, and not just relying on the original movie to kind of pursue the things that they want to do, or rely on those flashbacks that take place in 1978 and just keep on pursuing the way that those handled and panned out as well. So I thought there was just too many uses of relying on other things to make the story work, and that's too bad because I thought the story could have worked on its own terms better. I also thought some of the kills felt very artificial. There's just a lot of scenes here where it doesn't really even feel like blood coming out of people. So there's certain scenes where it just feels like either jelly or ketchup or just things that you would see in really, really old horror films. I think we're in a much better state now when we're in horror films that could really look like blood, really look like people are getting hurt. There's just a lot of scenes where it looks like strawberry jelly coming out of their eyes instead of blood and things like that. So I thought some of the kills in this film felt very artificial to me. I also thought some of the Michael Myers rules were just really unclear here. There's just a lot of scenes where the film doesn't really clearly make the decision of grounding Michael in reality or making him supernatural, because there's just as many scenes where he's grounded in reality and just as many scenes where he's supernatural in this. And I feel like in the 2018 film, they kind of made it more clear as to what kind of Michael Myers they wanted to use in that movie. So I thought this time around they should have done that too with Michael Myers. Is he grounded in reality or is he supernatural? But overall, I'm going to give Halloween Kills an 8 out of 10. I think it's a good movie. It's just a very flawed movie. It is unfortunately a letdown compared to what the 2018 film managed to pull off. I hope Halloween Ends, when that eventually does come out, does do a better job with getting us back on track with that 2018 film. Don't do a dumb mob mentality or anything like that in the next one, hopefully. So 8 out of 10 for me. I enjoyed this film, but go into this movie knowing that it's not a perfect movie. It's not a perfect Halloween film either. It's good. It's just not a great movie. I do recommend it though, 8 out of 10. But like I said, go into this movie knowing that it is a kind of a flawed movie as well. So 8 out of 10 for me.